What up, y'all? Let's get into day 6 of the Diddy trial. Hey, yo, this case is pure Hollywood foolishness, but we've all heard a lot of these stories about Diddy before. So before we get into the breakdown of the day, Diddy has now added a 9th lawyer to his team. He has 9 lawyers, really 10, because Mark Geragos is definitely acting like a silent attorney for him. This man has a whole basketball team trying to defend him. But yo, let's get into day 6, which was the continuation of Don's testimony. All right, so for y'all that don't know, Don was a member of Diddy's group, Danity Kane. He also had another group called Dirty Money. So Don has been around Bad Boy for a minute now. So on Friday, they said she came into the courthouse on a vengeance, like mad. And Friday, she had testified to Diddy being abusive to Cassie. She said there was an incident where Cassie was cooking Diddy some eggs. He ran down the stairs because she was taking too long. He snatched the frying pan, swung it at her. She ducked, fell to the ground, and he just started wailing on her. So that's where we ended on Friday. Monday, it's the defense's turn. They have Nicole Westmoreland cross-examining now. She is new to Diddy's team. She just came aboard about 2 weeks ago. Diddy was looking for a black woman attorney specifically. She also worked on the YSL case with Young Thug, and they said she tore a hole into Don. Okay, they said Nicole Westmoreland beat down on Don so bad it felt like she had a personal vendetta against her. All right, so let's get into it. We're not going to open up with Nicole. The feds are still talking to Don. They said, Friday, you told everybody that Diddy assaulted Cassie and he called a meeting with you and offered you and your bandmate Kalina Harper some flowers to keep quiet. And he also said something like, people around here have to be quiet or, they could end up missing. What does that mean? Don said, I took it like people could die. The feds say, well, what did you observe between Diddy and Cassie? Don said he would drag her, kick her, punch her. She would get hit all over the place. Anytime Cassie would speak up for her, he would assault her. Prosecution said, well, who saw all these things? She said, D-Rock. And if y'all don't know, D-Rock and Roger Bonds was Diddy's security around the time. Prosecution said, tell us about the incident at the festival. She said Diddy punched Cassie. She ran into the bathroom crying. She had a swollen eye, and we remained with her the whole time. We even wore glasses in solidarity with her so she wouldn't feel alone. Don also said the next time he assaulted her, she was around D-Rock, Capricorn, and Harv Pierre. Now, I want people to focus on what the feds are doing. They're not really focused on the assault. Don is now establishing everybody who is a part of the enterprise. D-Rock, Bonds, Capricorn, Harv Pierre. That is what is important about Don's testimony. It ain't really too much about the assaults. It's about who is around on Diddy's team and not doing nothing about it. The feds said, listen, Don, when Cassie would get assaulted, did anybody do anything? She said, no, none of us did. The feds say, well, why didn't you do anything? Don said, listen, if he would do that to her, his girlfriend, there's no telling what he would do to me. Don also testified about all the party favors that Diddy would indulge in. Green, Snow, Molly, ketamine. Don said a guy named One Stop will bring all the drugs around, and he had everything, including Plan B, birth control. She also testified that Diddy and his security team would keep guns around, but I kind of expect that. You security, you probably gonna have weapons. Don also testified that after she left Bad Boy, anytime she would get any momentum, start busting out into the press, Diddy would call her to kind of check in. And she said, yeah, I did kind of keep it pleasant with him. I ain't want to get him mad. The prosecution said, well, Don, when did you finally speak out about all this? She said after Cassie filed her lawsuit, that's when she felt the courage to file her lawsuit as well. All right, now it's Diddy's team's turn to get into Don. And this is when Nicole Westmoreland steps up. The first thing she told Don was, there's a motion to dismiss your lawsuit, right? Don was like, well, I got civil lawyers. They're handling that. Nicole said, well, what you said with prosecutors have consistently changed. Your allegations about this frying pan incident is all over. Don said, nah, my story stayed the same. Nicole said, first, you said he hit her with the pan. Then you said he hit her with the eggs. Then you say he swung the pan. So which is it? Don said, I never changed my story. Nicole said, well, we got the paperwork here, and it looks like you talked to the feds at least 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and every time you told this egg skillet story, it changed. It was a different variation every time. Sounds like you can't keep your story together. You keep flip-flopping and changing. They say everybody was in the courtroom was like, oh, okay, she going in. Nicole said, you told everybody on Friday that Diddy had a meeting with y'all after the incident and that people could go missing. Nicole said, I have every transcript here of when you talked to the feds and you never mentioned the fact that he said that people could go missing. You would think you would remember a death threat, right? Right? Let's move on. I was like, oh, okay. So Diddy's lawyer is pretty much insinuating that when Dawn got on the stand Friday, she's starting to embellish her stories a little bit. She's starting to make changes. She's not a reliable witness. Nicole says, you told everybody Diddy had guns around, right? Have you ever seen him pull it out and wave it at somebody? Dawn said, no, he just had it. Nicole said, did you ever tell the government that you never saw Diddy do cocaine? Dawn said, I don't recall. Nicole said, your story changes a lot. You can't really remember a lot of things. Dawn says, listen, as time progresses, I start to remember more. Nicole said, One Stop, the drug dealer. You just told us that you saw One Stop sell drugs and take money, right? Dawn said, yeah. Nicole said, didn't you tell the feds you never saw anyone pay him? So you lied again. Dawn said, no. So at this point, it sounds like they going back at each other. You know what I'm saying? They got beef. Nicole is catching her up in all these little stories that she's telling, and Dawn is forgetting, and they kind of like clashing a little bit. Nicole said, when you left Bad Boy, you reached out to Diddy to work with him again. So was you scared for your life or not? Because if you scared for your life, why you want to work with him again? Dawn was like, well, I only reached out to him because our other group mate, Kalina Harper, wanted us to get back together. Nicole said, listen, when you left Diddy, your songs never charted. You pretty much was a has-been. You needed Diddy to make more money. You even filed a lawsuit because guess what? You're a has-been. Your career has no motion without Diddy. Dawn said, I sued Diddy because of work conditions. I had no sleep. Nicole was like, no further questions, Your Honor. So everybody is like, Dawn left the courthouse deflated. They was like, Nicole Westmoreland, my girl from the A-Town, said she ain't come to play. I even heard a lot of people saying they should have let Nicole Westmoreland cross-examine Cassie. I don't think so. I think they put the right person on Cassie. Cassie was a very reliable witness, yo. She told everything that was embarrassing about herself. She said that she still had love for Diddy. Like, there wasn't really much you can tear apart on Cassie. She told the good, the bad, the ugly, all right? Next, they called Cassie's former best friend, Kerry Moore. Now, this is the friend who Diddy hit with a hanger, and Diddy ended up having to pay her off. So the feds say, Kerry, how do you know Cassie? She said, we were best friends until her boyfriend Diddy assaulted me. The feds say, did Cassie do drugs? Kerry said, nah, she never did drugs with us. She only drank a little bit before she met Diddy. The feds said, what drugs did Diddy provide? Kerry said, when we traveled, Diddy would provide Molly, Green, X. So y'all gotta peep this. This is another way of the feds saying Diddy was traveling all over the world and he had drugs on him. Kerry also talked about how Cassie completely lost herself when she got with Diddy. She lost her confidence, lost her self-worth. He yelled at Cassie all of the time. He would call her 50 times in a row, and when she wouldn't answer, sometimes Diddy's assistant KK would call. KK is another person in the enterprise. KK is his right-hand woman. She stated the first time she saw Diddy assault her, a bodyguard was there, and she begged the bodyguard to do something, and the bodyguard was like, man, I ain't getting involved in that. She also said when they went to Jamaica, Diddy assaulted Cassie again. He drug her by her hair. Kerry said she left, ran, got her purse, phones, passports so they could escape. She said by the time she got back, Cassie had ran into the woods. Can you imagine being in Jamaica and running in the woods in Jamaica? Kerry said she got on the golf cart. Diddy got on another golf cart, and they went separate ways trying to find Cassie. Kerry said she did end up finding Cassie, and they both just hid in a ditch away from Diddy. That's crazy. She said another incident took place, and I've seen kind of mixed reports on this, but it sounds like the night of the infamous hotel video that came out, Cassie went home, Kerry was there, and they said that Diddy came to the house looking for Cassie with a hammer, just beating on the door. Kerry said she ended up calling the police, but Cassie wouldn't cooperate. Yo, Diddy is insane. How in the world are y'all having a freak off? She tries to lead a freak off. You drag her in the hotel, beat her up. When she finally gets away, you go after her with a hammer and show up at her apartment. Y'all, that is the force. That is the coercion. This is crazy. Kerry then spoke about a time how Diddy had actually choked her out. So Diddy choked the best friend and hit her with a hanger. She said after the incident, she went to the urgent care and she also called a doctor. She also called a lawyer. She said her and Cassie met up at a diner. Cassie gave her $30,000 in an NDA, and her and Cassie haven't spoke since. Yo, That's crazy. So, Mark Agnafilio, Diddy's lawyer, steps up to try to cross-examine Kerry. But, Kerry pretty much was not on either side. She got beef with Cassie. She got beef with Diddy. So, she's a person that doesn't really care to be there. So, Agnafilio tried to get Kerry to speak on Cassie cheating on Diddy with Michael B. Jordan. Kerry was like, look, Cassie was trying to move on, but Diddy was jealous. Diddy got super jealous about Michael B. Jordan. She then said, but Cassie also got super jealous of Diddy, Diddy's new girlfriend, Gina. Kerry said Gina was a little girl. Agnafilio was like, hey, why you call her a little girl? She said, because she's younger than us and she acted like an immature little girl. So Gina is rumored to be victim 3. I did a video on my page. Y'all go check that out. Diddy beat victim 3, which is Gina, pretty gruesomely. She was supposed to testify, but she went missing and stated she never wanted to testify. I think she was paid off, okay? I think Diddy sent some money to that account to make her disappear. Because if she testified, her level of beatings from Diddy was on the same level as Cassie. It was crazy. So Diddy's lawyer was like, so you reached a settlement with Cassie, right? She was like, nope, the money came from Diddy. The lawyer was like, when Diddy choked you, were you on drugs at the time? She was like, no, he was just jealous and he was trying to figure out who Cassie was cheating with. Then they pretty much let Kerry leave. What else more can you get out of Kerry? She didn't want to be there, okay? She left. Now, mind you, this is all going on Monday. They had a lot going on. So next, Diddy's ex-personal assistant steps up. His name is David James. So the prosecution was like, David, tell us your story. How you end up working with Bad Boy? So he said he applied for a job to be Puff's personal assistant. David said, as an assistant, he's very detailed. He really wanted to work for Bad Boy. During this interview, he was given a task that would take a week to complete. He got that task done in 2 days, 3 days, pretty short period, and he got the job because he's just that efficient. He then went on to talk about his work schedule. He said they would work every day to about 5 p.m., go to dinner, then they would go to the studio at 3 a.m., and sometimes after that, Diddy would still be calling his phone all night saying he needed things, and then by 8 a.m., 9 a.m., they got to do it all over again. All right, so David is speaking to the charges of the forced labor. So David, James, and Don are both setting stage on Diddy's extreme work requirements and demands. David also talked about the security staff being around, D-Rock, Bonds, and Uncle Paulie, and how the security people told him, look, you stay in your lane. Don't get too nosy and don't get too cute. He also talked about how Diddy had 4 or 5 girlfriends and how Cassie said, yo, this lifestyle is crazy. He told Cassie, well, why don't you leave? She said, Sean controls my life, my music. He pays for my apartment. He said Diddy said at one point that Kim is his queen. She's home in L.A. with his family. But Cassie, I got Cassie right here where I want her. She's young and moldable. Then the prosecution said, okay, that's enough for today. So y'all got to peep how they setting the play up. Everybody was so focused on Nicole, Diddy's lawyer, ripping Don to shreds that they're missing out on the fact that Don, Kerry, and David all named D-Rock, Bonds, KK, and Paulie. These are all the people who work in Diddy's enterprise. The feds are weaving this web so masterfully, and people are missing it because they're so focused on the salacious thing. We are now on day 6, and the feds have already established the enterprise, Diddy being the leader and the shot caller. They've already got him on transportation for prostitution. I think we have enough evidence at this point of sex trafficking with Cassie, honest. Because, there are instances where she's like, yo, I want to do the freak off. But there's also instances where she's like, I don't want to do them. And we just heard about how he would use force and coercion and had total control over her life. Plus, countless people have testified to Diddy transporting drugs across state lines. Hell, even out of the country. Hey, they roping him up. They roping him. But yo, that's all I have for day 6. Day 7 and day 8 are coming soon. Leave your comments below. Thanks for hanging out with me. Peace.